Oh, we should be good.
All right, are we starting? Or are we on now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Looks like we're starting pretty soon. All right, nice, we're in. As far as bans are concerned, I actually have a few bans that I'd like to see this game.
What do you think is
Uh,
going to be coming down?
Without it against Skillwrecks, his level of play just drops significantly. Up there it is. Yeah, that goes without saying. As far as for purple side, that's a little trickier. There's some obvious choices, but maybe not great choices. They'll be tempted to ban Zed, just because that's one of ProFrag's mains. He does play pretty well in that champion.
It looks like my view of it's a little behind. I don't see bans yet.
Oh, mine's still. Oh, yeah, there's Callisto. Yeah, I really like the Callisto ban.
There we go.
Ranman is really, really good in Callisto, and it's hard to shut her down.
Yeah, I mean, he's played a lot of Graves as his, like, in the Tespa games and in earlier games.
Yeah, I guess the two things I'd say about that, Graves is really strong. He did get weaker in recent days, and it's a lot harder to, or it's a lot easier to shut down a Graves through either team comp or through ganking than it is Callista. If you watch Ranman play Callista, it's really hard to shut him down.
Yep.
So that's a good ban.
And if they don't first pick the Graves, purple team might counterpick it away from him, and then after that, I think his third pick might be a Sivir, which is not a really strong damage AD carry, which might throw a lot of their team comps into question.
Yeah, Sivir's not a carry in the traditional sense for AD carry. She's, as far as support AD carries go, she's the most supportive of them all, with low range and just the ult for speeding up. But picking up Sedge early is pretty strong. Surprised that wasn't banned, actually, with it being as strong as it is these days.
Yeah, I mean, the Hecarim ban is relatively obvious because Hecarim is just such a strong carry top laner, and both teams have top laners who like to snowball, with NannerBeans and kirbycommander usually
Yeah.
not opting for tanks.
I'm surprised they left Aurelia open, is what I was going to say. NannerBeans, that's his main champion. I think they'll pick Aurelia Sejuani this game. If not Aurelia, then I would expect to see Dr. Mundo.
Yeah, Mundo isn't as strong as he was last year, but he's still, like, he's really strong in a team fight just because he's a massive front line.
And what made him maybe a little bit better these days than he was in the past is the whole Cinder Hulk meta. He definitely benefits from that more than a lot of other champions do with the Smite.
Yep, yeah, like, he's strong again, just not as strong as it was last season when it was Mundo picked in every single game. When it was just the uber tank meta.
I'm sort of surprised to see Janna picked into Morgana. Usually it's the other way around. Usually Morgan's used for the counter pick, but perhaps they're looking past laning phase here. It makes sense if your main carry is your AD carry to pick something that supports it and can carry it through the laning phase, like Janna.
Yep. And, like, Janna's really strong in the early game just because of her the passive attack damage gains on her E. And then, like, later in the game, the disengage from her ultimate's really helpful, especially if they go with, like, an Orianna and, like, even that Gragas jungler who can engage and disengage.
That's true. She can reset a fight well. And the other thing going for Janna is if you're lane swapping, there's hardly any better support than Janna. She just adds quite a bit, and I wouldn't be surprised to see blue team lane swap here, considering Purple's biggest strength is their top laner, Kirby Commander. He often carries games just out of laning phase alone. One way to shut that down is to lane swap. The main thing that would do is make him have to take a lot longer to scale up. So Janna might be forecasting that.
God. I hate you.
What?
Janna forecasting the lane swap.
Oh, you noticed that?
I hate you.
I swear I didn't plan that one out. Yep, there's the Zed. Also not surprising. Oh, what is surprising is Shyvana. I knew that he liked the Cinderhulk meta with Smite, but I really expected him to do Mundo rather than Shyvana. Hypothetically, Shyvana's better at it, but I know NannerBeans has a lot of comfort on the Mundo pick, so we'll see if he can match that level of skill.
Yep. And another thing that a lane swap would do for blue team is that would put NannerBeans in the bot lane, and then you'd have 2 smites going in to Dragon.
Yeah, there's a lot of power objective control.
And like the NannerBeans wouldn't have to burn his teleport in order to get there. He'd just be there automatically. So it's going to put even more pressure on Kirby Commander if if they don't counter lane swap, because as soon as their jungler comes up for a gank, blue side can just do Dragon. So if the lane swap game is successful here, I have a feeling that blue side has the strategic advantage, assuming all lanes go even.
Yeah, absolutely. Purple does have one big advantage, and that's their AoE team comp. Graves, Morgana, Orianna, and Gragas, that's going to be doing a lot. And
the Irelia pickup by Kirby Commander is probably the perfect champion for this team comp, because there's a lot of AoE, and then the Gragas engage/disengage to get the fight started.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to have them put all their resources into the Irelia, or at least a lot of it. And that's why I'm really hoping that blue side tries a lane swap to minimize that.
And they have 3 CC heavy champions with the Gragas, Morgana, and Orianna with slows and lockdown. And then Irelia can just jump in onto that backline, and they can't just walk past her like they could a Mundo, because she still deals significant amounts of damage. So it's just a very heavy damage composition from purple side.
What I'm interested to see is what the different teams' win conditions are and playstyles are going to be. What I would expect is, if you're picking Orianna, she can't really go in a lane by herself and expect to win, especially against something like Zed. So they can't really play 1-3-1 as well, whereas blue side can. Zed can split a lane really well. Shyvana can split a lane really effectively. So in terms of controlling the lanes and enabling objective control, I think blue side has the absolute advantage here. I think they'll have more opportunities than purple will to set up the map in their control.
It's going to come down to, I have a feeling a lot of it's going to come in the early game. What advantages can the teams get through ganks and objective control? Because if there's an early gank that puts the Orianna ahead, she should be able to, if she gets her early mana regen item, she should be able to outspike the Zed and get him lower health first, and winning that lane while pushing it.
We definitely should talk about the early game lane matchups, because you're right, that's probably going to decide how these things go. That said, I would actually argue the opposite. I think Zed has a much easier time than Orianna in terms of ganks. I mean, Zed can get pressured by Orianna, that's true, but it's hard for Gragas to set up a successful gank on him. Whereas I think Zed would have a lot easier time shutting down the Orianna. And knowing the 2 players, I know that ProFrog is more inclined to play aggressive than Yuknowmi, so that might lead to jungler ganks.
And it all depends on like the early games. Like Sejuani is absolutely a better early ganker than Gragas, but both of their level 6s offer a ton of utility with the lockdown and displacement.
Yeah, if you think about it, they're pretty similar champions. I mean, the dashes leading into a knock-up stun, the tank, the disruption / the stun. Yeah, they are very similar. I know I've seen just A Robo play Gragas in the jungle, and he's not just, he does farm a lot, but he's pretty aggressive. I wouldn't be surprised to see him either invade or do turret dives or ganking early on, even before level 6.
Yeah, and I have a feeling like if they aren't able to get kills, whoever is just able to power farm their jungle more successfully is going to hit 6 first, and that first big fight of the game might swing the game in either favor. But
And that's where the Shyvana with the smite really comes into play, because she can counter jungle the Gragas. If I were purple side here, if I was the Gragas, I'd be looking to make that Shyvana's make her regret not taking flash. I would just be ganking her all day. For one, that sets up your Aurelia, because she's sort of your carry in the first place. And two, without the flash, it's the best target to gank. You can't really gank a Zed, you can't really gank a Janna, especially with a Corki. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them focusing the Shyvana really hard in this early game.
right, and that's usually a pretty good strategy, especially if you have someone like kirbycommander who absolutely thrives off of every extra little ounce of jungle pressure that he gets.
Yeah, you give him first blood and he can carry a game off of it. Or at least a lane.
It's just I'm really interested to see what these early game matchups are going to be, just between all of the different lane swaps and early jungle invades and ganks that we can see. A lot of it's very wide open, but
Yeah, in terms of action, I would expect the least amount of action to happen in mid lane, surprisingly. You'd think that Zed would make things a little more aggressive, but knowing the playstyle of both characters, neither of them is trying to carry on their own. Most of them are just trying to farm so that they're in a safe place for the team fighting later on. I would expect it to all be in the junglers this game. I expect them to either invade heavily or be gankling the top laners.
Right, and like even if one side gets a gold lead or a dragon lead or something, both of those ults are just so incredibly disruptive that they can wombo with other ultimates from the team and just wreak havoc on a team if they get any slight little catch.
I've seen. That's a good point. I've seen Stoltmeister play Janna before, and he's excellent at following up at CC from a jungler. I've seen him flash to use the Janna ult in a very aggressive manner, which I like to see on Jannas. He's really good at making plays with the jungler, so that's something to look out for.
That's some of my favorite ways to play Janna. Just all-out aggressive from a typically backline shielding support. It's something that you really don't see because it's pretty ballsy, but if you pull it off right, it's just absolutely glorious to look at.
Yeah, it can pay off, but it depends sort of how your team's going, because I guess if you're going to pick two characters or two players on each team to carry the game, it's going to be Ranman on Corki and kirbycommander on Aurelia. So if you're the Janna and you need to peel for your Corki, maybe you can't make those plays. But I would say those are the two people to watch out for, the Aurelia and the Corki. If either one of them gets a big enough lead over the other one, I expect that team to win the game.
And the Dark Binding from Skillwrecks just missing on Shyvana as red side makes the full jungle invade, but they're just putting down their lane swap wards like you would sort of expect.
Yeah, that ward that Morgana just placed is ideal at noticing where, if the lane swap's going to happen, they have enough time to react and send their bot lane accordingly.
And they're hovering river, so blue side has absolutely no route that they could take where they would not get spotted by a ward for these lane swaps. So it looks like they're just hovering to standard lane matchups.
Yeah, that's surprising. I would have expected them to go for the opposite, but Janna doesn't have a super hard time preventing farm. I mean, Corki will be able to get farm this game. I mean, Graves Morgana is really strong, but Ranman does a decent job at farming even in a super aggro lane like Graves Morgana.
And it looks like the Shyvana with her smite is actually going to be starting with the Wraiths.
Yep, that's a great start. She has really good AoE so that she can clear that faster than almost anything else. She'll just back and teleport back to lane.
Yep. Versus the Sejuani, who's does have the strong AoE, but that time is better spent doing the wolves.
So it looks like just A Robo is stealing a blue buff. If he's lucky, he could get a 3-buff start here. He could go from blue, red, and then back to his blue.
That would put him significantly ahead, and the Dark Binding from Skillwrecks lands onto Ranman. He's already dropped to about half health, but so is the Morgana. But getting the AD carry lower health is preferable, in my opinion, to getting the support lower health, just because it makes farming a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and usually the support starts with more sustain than the AD carry does in terms of pots alone. They do have a Doran's Blade, but usually it's one pot for the AD carry versus 2 or 3 for the support.
And that pot's already been popped, so no more potions of fun for him coming out here. I'm really interested to see how Kirby Commander's, just how hard he's going to be able to bully the Shyvana early. Irelia has a pretty weak early game, but once she hits levels 5 and 6, gets probably stronger than the Shyvana in trades, unless
you're right that Aurelia doesn't really have. You sort of have to mess up on Shyvana in order to lose the advantage early on, but it does start to go in Aurelia's favor later on, unless the Shyvana's been farming well.
I mean, if the Irelia is able to just in and out trade you while your W is down, they should win trades, especially if you miss E. But that's severely messing up from a Shyvana standpoint.
Looks like Alex was able to smite away the I forgot what this one's called, but the
Gromp? Or no, Scuttlecraft.
Yeah, there you go. He's still having a hard time. It looks like almost every camp's already been stolen. He's going to be behind, and without a blue buff, it's not really easy for Bonnie to farm effectively.
Absolutely not. She's really, really mana hungry early on, just for all of her AoE abilities and moving around in that jungle. Another Dark Binding lands, but both sides in that bot lane are dropping pretty low, so there's going to be a lot of stuff happening down there pretty soon. It's going to be more and more volatile as they keep slinging spells at each other.
As expected, mid's been a farm lane so far. I would put the favor towards ProFrog, both in farm and in harass so far, and you'll notice that Oriana's mana is getting pretty low. She does have 2 charges left, but she's going to have a harder time farming than Zed will.
Yep, it's going to be interesting to see what she itemizes with her first bag, because...
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes you want to grow Grail, but that doesn't really help against his eggs, so you're forced to try maybe Tier.
Right. I mean, if Yuknowmi is confident that he can farm effectively without all of that mana and keep himself pushed out from under tower, he might just go for that straight build into the Zonias.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of them like to start out with the Seeker's Arm Guard, but you're right. You lose out on all your mana control and harass. That's sort of like if you're conceding lane and just want to make sure you don't die, which would already give the advantage to ProFrog.
I mean, the other thought to be had there is that Valkyrie's in, tanks a couple turret shots and is dropping really low.
Oh,
here comes the counter gank. 2 flashes burned already, 3 flashes burned. Dark Binding lands onto Stoltmeister. That is first blood for sure, going on to Graves. And just absolute devastation. And
that was really good game sense by just A Robo, knowing to come in and say.
Yeah, and Ranman got way too aggro, and ProFrog hit 6, went in on Yuknowmi, popped Ignite, and ult.
Characteristically aggressive for Ranman.
Yeah, tanked too many turret shots there, especially with the counter gate coming just behind. Not enough vision control from blue side really cost him there.
Yeah, as expected, this Robo already farmed very aggressively, and it's working out for him.
Yeah, the 2 blood kills that they get there for first and second blood give them that combined with farm advantages, giving them a 1k up in this, and a difference in 500 gold for the Graves, which is already resulting in a BF sword versus pickaxe itemization, which is just going to snowball the lane even further.
At level 6, that's going to be painful for the Corki, or the Janna. If anything, it's easier just to kill the Janna over and over.
Yeah. For all of her shields and heals, she is herself really squishy.
I'm surprised. Well, not that surprising, but you'll notice that Aurelia has a pretty significant advantage over the Shyvana.
Yeah.
That has to do with early pressure in the top lane, but Shyvana, if I were the Shyvana here, I'd be looking to push out the lane and then doing other camps. If you're always forced in by the Aurelia, you never have a chance to make use of your snipe and get other camps. And that's sort of what's been happening here.
And it looks like ProFrog's running up along with the Orianna because Graves was a little bit caught out in that jungle. He looks like he was going for some vision on blue and maybe a Gromp steal, but...
Yeah, he had the timer on it since he did it, but sort of hoping he could catch them before they went to it, which turned out not to be the case.
But he did spend a lot of time sitting in that brush, not getting any experience. So, I think he's still a little bit ahead, but Sedge has just been power farming this entire time.
And fight mid.
Fight mid and fight bot. Morgana hit 6, as did the Corki. But kills traded back and forth all over the place. Flash burned on Graves.
Barely misses it. But yeah, that's exactly what you need to be doing. Use that BF sword to bully out the Janna.
Yep, and you'll notice in the fight mid lane, even though that Zed and Sedge were able to pick up the kill on Orianna, Zed still died to turret shots.
Oh, I missed that. I didn't see that either. Oh, that's really good for lucky, maybe.
I mean, that's just where the choice of summoner spells paid off, I guess, for the Orianna. In a fight that you aren't going to win like that.
Strange to take Ignite if you're already building things like Seeker's Vanguard. You're not really playing aggressively. I would sooner take Heal or Barrier in that matchup.
Or Exhaust for Zed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, good point.
But I suppose in a fight where you can only exhaust one person, igniting someone for the revenge kill is a really legitimate strategy. But
we'll see if that pays off in the future.
Yeah, if ProFrog's able to kill him before Ignite comes back up, or even a solo kill, it wouldn't be worth it at all.
Well, the thing about that matchup is, without the ults, I think Orianna has the pressure advantage in terms of harass. So they can just make use of that and not look for the ults and just take barrier, and they'll win by default. Or just wait for the jungler to come.
There's a full-size tornado that lands onto the Orianna.
Oh, that's painful.
Ignite and lockdown. And Sejuani secures the kill.
Yeah,
that's another one down on Orianna.
Ori.
And just a good timing of the summoner spells and good rotations from blue side, bringing them back a little bit in this lane. But that advantage top lane for the Irelia continues to pile up. Now almost 30 CS up in that matchup, with constantly being shoved in.
Zed needs to start roaming and helping his lanes right now. Doesn't matter. They could kill Orianna 2 or 3 more times, and it wouldn't really make a big difference because, as it stands, it's already starting to get a little out of hand in top lane, and Graves is getting a big goal.
And there goes the solo kill onto NannerBeans from kirbycommander. Definitely saw that coming. Just when you're 30 CS up and have that cutlass, it makes all-ins a lot easier. But blue side is clearing vision around Dragon, and this is honestly the side that Zed should be putting his focus onto. The Irelia is already too farmed to shut down entirely, so she's still going to have an impact. All you can really hope for at this point is that the Shyvana is able to push her off turret long enough for the rest of the team to farm up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think if you're the Zed and you're looking for pressure plays, best to do it on the bot side, especially with the third to set it up.
So, not a real huge engagement there. Both junglers are hovering around in the bottom side, but nothing is broken out yet. Robo's trying to clear that pink ward, but here comes the Sedge and the Zed. Zed ult popped onto the Gragas, doing all the damage that he can, but ult is used to clear off, and he's only sitting around half health. Teleport in from Kirby-Commander. Now Shyvana's going to be split pushing that lane alone. Let's see if red side is able to do something with this 5-man advantage that they have.
Without Zed ult, it's really tricky for them to do AD carry without an incredible Sejuani ult.
And NannerBeans still has 20 seconds on that teleport cooldown, so it's going to be a 4v5 for the rest of this fight. And there goes the first dragon of the game, stolen by the Sejuani!
Oh, well done.
And everyone is able to escape the Morgana ultimate. Looks like Sedge is going to get dropped for her struggles, but the rest of the team is going to back out of there perfectly fine. The red side is now pushing down that mid turret, which is about the best choice they could have had in this situation. They just had Dragon stolen from them.
Yeah, but with Janna and Corki, that's enough wave clear, and the shield from Janna, it's going to be hard for them to seize it. They'll get damage on it, but I don't think they can take it here.
Meanwhile, that Shyvana's just crushing down those top turrets, already about to be banging on that inner turret. With
Yeah,
just
that's
the
the best thing
though.
Shyvana can hope for, is she got experience that she needed to catch up on the Aurelia. She'll be able to finish her Cinderhulk here.
But if we can just talk about that Dragon Steal again. That wasn't a Smite Steal. That was a steal with the ultimate.
Yeah. If anything, you can blame just a Robo for that. That shouldn't be happening. If only, if only they had a Smite on their Aurelia, they'd have the ability to take that.
Though his name is just a Robo, his Smite mechanics are only human.
First Dragon isn't that big a deal. What's bigger there is the fact that they got advantage on their Shyvana. I think with Cinderhulk, she shouldn't be dying so low anytime soon to the Aurelia.
That's going to be a difficult matchup, though, because even though she has the Cinderhulk, the Aurelia does have the completed Blade of the Rune King. Here comes the ultimate. Orion ult completely misses. Zed backs out of there, goes back in from the Gragas ult, and it might take Ignite takes down the Orianna.
He should be able to chase him down here.
Yep. So trading kills back and forth. Slight favor on red side there with the assist, but it takes 2 people to kill the Zed now. That means pressure in other lanes.
I think Sejuani is going to have a hard time ganking bot against that Morg shield. Plus, without the vision to really know, as you can see, red has wards in both their bushes. She's having a hard time finding plays.
And she's just sitting around in that bot side trying to make something happen. Meanwhile, the Aurelia and Gragas crush down that mid lane turret. And here comes the Morgana ult to try and fend off that Corki. But they just backed off. Sedge ult completely misses. But a few more rockets and that Morgana's going to be going down. Here comes the mid laner, or top laner and jungler from red team. See if they're going to be able to counter gank this, or if blue is going to back
Sedge
off.
ult is down, so there's not really any risk.
Dark Binding is dodged out by Sedge, so looks like they're just going to back out of there. Orianna's now in the top lane. That's a more reasonable matchup. The Shyvana. Beautiful tornado from Janna. Keeps everyone alive, and there's the ultimate as well, keeping everyone healthy enough to survive.
A lot of close calls there.
Oh, man. That dive was almost just absolute tragedy for blue side. But while they're crushing
the tower here.
Yeah, they're going to be getting that turret, but unless Orianna is going to be able to fend off the Zed and Shyvana.
Oh, fight on the Orianna here.
There's the double ultimate, and she's going to be dropped, and they're just going to walk out of it.
There's nothing she can do there without the zone, yes.
Yeah, so they're going to be taking out that turret.
That was a good play by NannerBeans to know that Aurelia is wasting time bot. Well, not wasting time, but knows where she can go to make power plays.
Yep, and they end up just trading turrets there. So now they're staying even in turrets, and like even though there are a few kills in the favor of red side, that Dragon Steal is honestly shifting the favor more or less back to even in favor of blue side.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty close, that's for sure. One thing I want to mention is I really like Kirby Commander's idea to take Blade of the Rune King first here. Almost every Aurelia takes turn equals. What's smart about that, 2 things. One, going against 2 Cinderhulks, you got the % health damage, which will scale faster in terms of taking down those big tanks against the Shyvana and the Sejuani. And the other reason I really like it is you notice that she's making a lot of early instead of farming up for the training force. Since she was able to do that by building the Blade of the Rune King, she can gank a lot faster and make plays around the map a lot easier.
Grandman unable to dodge out the Morgana ult and is going to be tanking it. There goes the Graves ult.
Oh, Janna tried to flash to save, but
not nearly
sure what that
enough.
was doing. Yeah.
Just a beautiful play by Skillwrecks, forcing him to use the Valkyrie and then ulting him.
Yeah, he's really a star on their team, able to make a lot of plays. I think the 4-0.
Here comes the 2-man onto Kirby Commander. Gets stunned, canceling his teleport, so it looks like he's going to be getting dropped here. Tries to flash out, but no tricky plays coming in this time. Here comes the Z ult on the Orianna. Sneaky plays with the shadows. Orianna ults, but alas, Deathmark pops her. Here comes the teleport down to try and save on that bottom turret as well. All sorts of map movement coming in from red side to counter all of the pressure that they're having on red's team. Dragon up
a lot of chaotic movements here.
Dragon in 20 seconds, and so far, no turrets being dropped in this last trade from blue side, and 2 kills picked up. So now the kill score is 6-8.
If I'm red side here, I would seek to get the top turret. It's going to be really hard to see the secondary towers without a bigger lead.
I think the biggest throw right here was Kirby Commander trying to use teleport to get out, because now his teleport's down
Yeah, he's supposed to go to Dragon.
for this entire Dragon fight. So he's running as fast as he can, but he's getting there after they had swept out all of the wards, and blue team is completely splitting up here as well.
Binding lands on Corky.
Yeah, I don't know what the Zed and Janna were doing here. They completely split off from the rest of their team.
Yeah, they need to stay with Corky there.
And this is absolute trauma for blue side, except they've focused down on that Kirby Commander.
They popped the Aurelia.
But now their health bars are dangerously low coming in here, and Orianna's still alive. Sejuani gets ulted, so she's going to be falling down, but Orianna's taken down as well. Both solo lanes falling from blue side. Looks like Gragas is going to just make it out, but health bars are dangerously low for blue side, and I don't know if they're going to be able to do this Dragon.
Yeah, so far a 1 for 3 in favor of blue, but looks like they're chasing him down. You should be able to take Shyvana here.
Yep, one last shot from the Graves.
Oh,
ProFrog going back in. Blade of the Ruin King secures the kill onto Graves, and now they're able to safely do this Dragon.
So it started off with a nice catch on the Corky. He was split off, and they hit him with the Morgana binding, but they chased him a bit too far. He was able to, they exhausted him, and he Valkyrie'd out, and by that time, Aurelia was already caught out. She was in too far, and he just died.
Yeah, it's something to be noted here that the engagement from purple side is limited to hooks with catches with the Morgana Dark Binding and Gragas ultimates. And
Yeah,
both of those skills
didn't hit Corky. It didn't hit Corky the way they needed it to, so it was too late for them to keep going in that fight.
And yeah, both of those skills were used, and the disengage from blue side was strong enough to keep the main core of their damage alive long enough to just slowly whittle down purple side until they just won the fight by default. I think purple side's going to have to combo their ults a lot better in the future if they want to be winning these team fights.
Here.
Yeah, here comes the repeated gank, and looks like the same situation. All of the summoner spells being used, but the ball delivery system going to be keeping Kirby Commander alive. Slow lands onto him though, and he just has a sliver now. But he finally gets finished off. Other members of blue side are joining the fight. Zed's doing damage. Gragas forced to use an ult. Here comes Zed ult and the Shyvana ult. Shyvana ult completely misses. Zed doing damage as he does, and
This looks like a turret trade. Meanwhile, bot lane is taking the secondary tower. Trade for a mid.
I take a mid lane turret over a bottom lane turret almost every day, though.
Sure, but it was a trade that they needed to take at that point. But
Right.
with only Orianna, I think they can use their inhibitor here. That's a good point.
Orianna gets taken down collectively by all of the range, and now they're knocking on the inhibitor. Not enough members on purple side were on that bot lane. They could only settle for the inhibitor turret, and now they're forced to come back and see what kind of re-engagement they can get. Dark Binding misses, and no engagement is happening from purple side. Just not a very strong engagement tools that their team has to work with.
I think that started with Kirby Commander just pushing way too far. I mean, it's a good idea to try to get top tower, but he had no vision of the river. He didn't have any backup from his jungler, who was mid at the time. It really turned sour for them there.
Yeah, but if they're able to stop blue team from backing here, things could be relatively troublesome for them, because they have low mana bars and ever decreasing health bars, and they haven't been able to go back. Only the Sejuani has stats again.
There's no objective for them to get, though. It's too hard to push against super minions in mid to try to seize the tower. If anything, the only tower they can still get is the top tower right now.
And Oriana's shifted up there. And it looks like Kirby Commander's going for buff steals, which is about as good as you can hope for. And the Gragas is there as well with the smite for the secures. And blue side didn't have any vision for it. But now they have vision of red side getting Scuttle Crab. Oh, Sejuani! You're all alone there. Fortunately, the rest of your team went back.
Yeah, she was used to the Oriana getting caught out and being by herself, but this time it wasn't the case.
Yep. She had a beautiful ultimate, but unfortunately, no one else was there to work with it, so she got taken out.
Yeah, it's easy to get 5-man ults when you're caught out by 5 members.
Wow. ProFrog on Zed doing work. Soloing that Irelia.
Blade of the Rune King and Brutalizer, plus the makings of the last picture.
And I honestly think that Irelia could have fought back a little bit better, but the itemization of Blade of the Rune King, not all that effective against an assassin.
Yeah, it's not enough. She needed that Trinity Force to deal with the Zed.
Just not best playmaking by the Irelia. Sure, Kirby Commander's up in farm, but he's 1-4.
Yeah, he's got a lot of farm, but he doesn't have the item thing to prove it. I mean, he's big. He has a big lead on the Shyvana, but the Oriana just got too far behind and gave too many kills to the Zed. Mostly thanks to the Sejuani ganks. There's not much Oriana can do against those two alone.
Right.
So props to red side, giving a lot of. It seems like they have better knowledge of objective control, tower control, and where to be at the right times so far. I haven't really seen that from red.
Yeah, like in theory their laners are more mechanically sound, at least with their AD carry and top laner, going off the leads and farm that they have. But the rotations that blue side has been doing are just totally outclassing them.
Yeah. Outside of laning phase, it's all blue right now. But you're right, they weren't able to translate their advantages in the dragon control. They got the mist smite. They weren't able to translate into tower control. So really good shot calling, looks like, by blue team here.
And again, Gragas is in a place where it's just him, and there are other members of blue side in the area immediately. And they could have fought that if Gragas didn't back off. But Sejuani is.
Oh, there's the teleport.
And here comes the ultimate from Morgana landing only onto the Sejuani, and there's the dual teleport. Kirby Commander's in alone by himself, gets the bolt delivery system and the Oriana ult, but they're getting dropped low.
Oh, here comes Zed.
And Zed is just doing all of the damages, and Corki just sat on the backline for that. And Irelia was not able to chunk him down before the Zed arrived and took out the rest of their team.
Yeah, they tried engaging there, but the problem was, without engaging on the Corki or the Zed, you're going to lose the team fight. I mean, they got them low, but nothing was focused on the Corki. Irelia didn't even get to him, so Corki was free to do as much damage as he needed to, and then Zed came in with the cleanup.
And, I mean, the Morgana ult was only on the Sejuani.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the team fight ultimate that you need to use to lock down multiple members, and if it only lands onto one person, that fight is going to go south very quickly.
Their hope was Sedge was enough alone that they would be able to pop her before the team backed up, but they didn't really have the vision to know that. If you look at the map, they only have the 2 wards a little bit above Dragon. They had nothing on the bottom side.
They had a ward in the bush immediately off of mid lane that ticked off just as that fight was breaking down.
I guess perhaps 2 aggressive plays without the...
But, I mean, that entire thing started when Gragas was trying to get Scuttle Crab, and then Sedge and Janna caught him doing it, and he had to back off. Then he came back in with multiple members. Meanwhile, all the other members of blue side were running in, and they just engaged only on the Sejuani.
Now with Baron, blue should be able to take every outer tower here, but they already have mid inhibitor tower taken. So they might choose just to 5-man the inhibitor rather than going for any outer towers. It shouldn't be too hard to do. I wouldn't expect Red to try to defend the inhibitor, not with that Zed damage.
Speaking of Zed damage, just immediately half-elfing that Orianna and not even giving a crap about it. Here comes the Zed ult into the onto the Morgana. Doesn't quite finish her off, but it does quite a bit of damage and it forces her to burn her ultimate. Finishes off the Orianna, and all of the focus is going down onto Kirby Commander. He gets dropped. Graves at this point getting completely outclassed by the Corki. Even with his ultimate is unable to drop him, and the Shyvana's chasing down the Graves.
Yeah, 5 for 2, including mid inhibitor. They should be able to take top tower as well. It looks like they're going for the end. They have about 10 seconds before Orianna spawns.
But that Corki is dangerously low. Randy's gonna have to really put on his dancing shoes and dodge all of the barrels and balls that come his way.
They do have the Janna for the disengage in the Gragas. Yep.
And Janna's ultimate, while fully channeled, gets a pretty decent heal too, and that's what allowed them to be confident enough to stay here. And Sedge...
This is a little bold. I think they can get it though. Yep, there it is, and that's game 1.
Yeah. Just not enough focus and CC from purple side to lock down that Zed.
Yeah, I think what we saw in that game is we saw that Red had the laning advantage. They had stronger lanes. They got an advantage in top and bot. And it was even in mid for a little while. But blue side just had the superior shot calling. They had the superior objective control. And that one miss smite did end up making a small difference in terms of they ended up getting 3 dragons by the end of the game. So red side needs to work on their understanding of the teleports, of the dragon control.
And just in general, their mid-game shot calling needs to be a little bit better. They had some really questionable plays and weren't able to take the stronger lanes that they had, that being the CS advantages on their top lane and AD carry, and weren't able to make that work. So I'm very interested to see what they're going to be able to do this time.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll alter their pick ban strategy at all, especially for the bans. I think Kalista is something you have to keep. I think Thresh is something you have to keep. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Zed ban this game. He ended up carrying almost solo for the early game, thanks to Sejuani help. So maybe they should give more priority to either taking away the Sejuani or banning it along with Zed.
But their blue side this time, they could very easily first pick it away from them as well.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that Yuknowmi is a Zed player, but I would expect them to take Sejuani away. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, I think they're going to be banning the Zed, and maybe if they don't go with an Orianna pick this time, I know Yuknowmi, I'm pretty sure he's had a lot of success on Xerath in the past as well.
Yeah, I expect him to play Xerath. I was going to say that. Perhaps play a little safer, a little further back. It is sort of a you die if you get caught in the same way Orianna was, but perhaps you can get himself in those positions further back that doesn't become a thing in the first place.